So good evening and very, very warm welcome to all of you. Welcome. Team Umang is welcoming you to this session on the alchemy of money. Very, very different and very unique session. And I'm sure all of you are looking forward to this session. Let me just tell you something about Umang. Umang is an initiative started by the doctors for the doctors with focusing on learning, evolving together and empowering each other, focusing on life education. And we have been doing this monthly sessions on various subjects like preventing burnout, nurturing self, and mental health. And today is the session, seventh session on Umang. We started in January 2021. And today's session is very interesting, very unique, the alchemy of money. Alchemy, as you know, is a process, a very magical or a powerful process that transforms something in a mysterious or very impressive way. And all of us need to know about how to transform this money power and enjoy the financial freedom in life. See, as medicos, we never receive any formal money education. Initial years of our life, we just worrying about the money, taking care of our needs, and worrying about and having financial insecurities. So initial years just goes in hardworking at the cost of our health, our leisure time, and a lot of enjoyment in life. And then later on, money becomes a habit, a compulsion, or an obsession, and just you go on working out of habit. Okay? Today we are going to have a discussion. There is a fantastic panel of experts who are our own colleagues and seniors who have walked this path on the way to financial freedom. And we are going to discuss 4 aspects of money. That is earn, save, invest, and enjoy. And the ultimate aim is to enjoy financial freedom so that the money starts working for you and not the other way around, that you are working for money. So all of you be ready for having a fantastic discussion. And as the speakers, all the participants are also very much excited. And I'm Dr. Alpa Dalal. I'm a pulmonologist from Jupiter Hospital. I'm going to moderate session with my co-moderator, Dr. Chetna Bakshi. She's an oncologist from Jupiter Hospital. And hereby I invite Dr. Chetna to start introducing our panelists. Chetna, over to you.
Hey, thanks, Alpa. I welcome all of you once again. Today we have with us 6 team panelists who have either achieved financial freedom or already on their way to achieve financial freedom. Not only that, each one of them, they are very much sorted in their life, and I'm sure today's discussion will really help us to become sorted like them in our life. So I would request all panelists also at least to put their video on so that we can see them. First, I welcome Dr. Karnad, our own person. He works in ICU in Jupiter Hospital since 2009. Before that, he was working in KM for 25 years. After that, he took VRS from KM and he has joined Jupiter Hospital. Welcome, sir. We can't see you. Sir, put your camera on. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Then I welcome Dr. Sujit Rajan. He is a consultant chest physician at Bombay Hospital and Bhatia Hospital. He's a senior chest physician practicing since last 25 years. Then I welcome Dr. Darshan Chudgar. I can't see him. Yeah, you are there, sir? Dr. Darshan Chudgar, he is a practicing ophthalmologist.
Yeah, he's there.
Okay, hi. He's a practicing ophthalmologist from Ghatkopar since last 20 years. He's attached to Aditya Jyot Hospital at Ghatkopar. Dr. Priya Chudgar, our own consultant radiologist at Jupiter Hospital, and she has a special interest in cardiac MRIs. Dr. Manish Chandra is the head of the Department of Radiation Oncology in Jupiter Hospital. And a young dynamic Dr. Swapnil Kapote is a consultant oncosurgeon at Jupiter Hospital. I welcome all of you once again. And I think without wasting any time, because there are many people and they are waiting for discussion to start. So over to Alpa to start the discussion.
Yes. Thanks, Chetna, for that wonderful introduction. And let us start. So let's start with the youngest one. So my first question is to Dr. Swapnil Kapote. Dr. Swapnil, I'm going to ask you about what are the myths and misconceptions about money among the doctors and also in Indian culture? And how did you realize when you started your career, how these myths and misconceptions are actually a block to your financial, financial journey? And how did your financial journey start?
Thank you, Arpan. So basically, what I've realized is the Indian culture is very against money earning. Our elders always tell us that money is kind of bad. Investing is kind of bad. Their favorite investment options used to be fixed deposits. And no one ever bothered to teach their children how to invest money. Second thing is, after independence, the generation of our parents who were born immediately after independence or just before independence, they have grown up in a socialist kind of an atmosphere. So at that time, it was like everyone should get equal amount of money. It was kind of similar to communism, but with some difference. So because of that, one person acquiring a lot of wealth was looked down upon. It was not something that, it should be people can become rich. It should be like everyone should get some money. And if someone is becoming rich, it was thought that he is doing something wrong or illegal. So that culture permeated for a very long time, and still some amount of that residual thing is still there. But what our elders say, you do your work, you become qualified, and the money will come. But we have to realize that there are only 24 hours in a day. Even if you become the most qualified person in the world, you can't work more than some particular hours, maybe 8 or 10 hours a day, or maybe 12 if you stretch yourself. But per hour you can't make by yourself you can't make much money, but you can make others or other money to make money for you. So that is the main core of the philosophy of how passive income, which is said. So that's what businesses are like. Businesses, the business owner is not working as much, the other people are working for him. Not everyone has the aptitude to start his own business, so he can work and put money in the stock market or in some other investment options, and the money will grow for him. So coming to the question that how I started my journey, so basically when I started my private practice after I left Tata, so there are people who will sniff abhi kaun doctor chalu kiya hai practice. So similarly, my brother's office had one person who was an insurance agent, come investment, financial planner, this kind. So he came to my house one day and he showed me like a PPT of all kinds of products. And I, being totally ignorant about these things, I just bought a lot of them thinking that, this is good for my child's future. This is good for my retirement plan. And, blindly I bought a big sum of money, which you have to pay every month, not realizing that that guy was not choosing what is right for me. He was choosing what is right for him. And that's how my initial investment was. Later on, after some time, I kept operating for a couple of years. And then one day, one anesthetist was there and she was like, "Are you investing in mutual funds?" And I was like, "No." And then she said, "Okay, you should start." I said, "Okay." So I started. So again, it was kind of a random thing. But then finally, in I think 2017 or 18, one of my friends, Ramnath Bhute, he started that WealthCon thing. So I went for one session, and that just really opened my eyes. And then there are other things, but we'll cover it later. So this is how my journey started. So there will be kind of vulture kind of people who will come and try to entrap young doctors. So we have to be careful of them.
That's very inspiring to share, and this is what Swapnil, you being the youngest, your story is going to inspire many other youngsters who just started their practice. And over to you, Chetna, for the next question.
Yeah, and I think what Swapnil said, most of the doctors do get trapped. So for young doctors, this is a lesson that you should not get trapped in whatever agents say. That is very important. So my question is to Dr. Sujit Rajan, sir. Out of the 4 components, as Alpa said, 4 components of wealth creation: earn, save, invest, and money. How do you divide your time in these 4? In what proportion? And how it has changed from the time you have started your practice up to now? How it has changed?
So I think I had literally no money when I started practice. And I remember the first days when I started, my father used to ask me, how many patients have you seen? And for the first 2 weeks, there was no patient. And when he asked me on the third week, I think I told my mother, if he asks me again, I will just stop practicing, because it was so humiliating and frustrating it felt to start practice like that. And then, of course, I think it gradually picks up. But I agree with you, Chetna. The question you asked was about how your goals or how your ideas change about money. And I think in the beginning, when you start private practice, and my father was working with the government, so he thought I should earn a little more than him. So I should start private practice, much against my wish at that time. And then you start earning money and you think that's your goalpost, right? And until you achieve it, you start comparing yourself with peers and people who probably will tell you what to do and what not to do, and you keep chasing that. And then someone will come and ask you to invest money the moment you have some money. And someone will also, you will start peers seeing they're spending more money than you are, and then you are tempted to spend that money also. But you know, one thing we sort of forget, I think, is about saving money. And that's something I was discussing with Alpa also earlier, that you earn a lot of money and then you land up spending a lot of money also. And investing, I think, is different for every person. I don't think there is a plan that suits every person. It's really based on what your lifestyle is and what you want out of your life. And I really think that one thing that's in our control, Chetna, is saving. And saving for no reason at all is something that nobody teaches us about. I mean, we save to buy a house or a car, but you know, planning on your plan not going according to plan is, I think, what we should take home. And so if you have to ask me, my journey was earning. After earning, my next thing was spending, and then investing when I realized I was spending a bit too much. And the last thing I was doing, which I've learned only in the last few years, is saving. And I think it should happen as soon as you start earning. If I have to change that goalpost, that should happen straight away. And nobody tells us that in a hurry, actually. Everyone believes that as you earn more, your lifestyle should be proportionate to that.
And there is no formal education about saving and investing.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I think for doctors, absolutely not. And which is why I told Alpa,
so you are more into saving, or you are investing? Like,
I am investing, but I'm investing within my means, you know. So I think that's also important to understand. You don't just go into stock markets, equity. I mean, there's a lot of exciting things out there to invest in, but I think you need to be rational in your approach. And I think being rational is not what happens when it comes to investing. As Swapnil was rightly saying, the investor comes with everything. The agent comes with everything on the platter.
yes.
And he doesn't discuss rationality in it. He just says, you have to do this, you have to do A, B, C, D, E, and F. But what is actually what you need to have a comfortable retirement, you know? And as someone said, the biggest, most wealthiest thing is to get up in the morning, being able to do what you want, when you want. And I think that's more wealth than any money can buy. And I think if you reach there, you're really evolved in money terms, you know?
Yes, very important point. Yeah. So, Alpa, over to you.
Yeah. So my next question is to Priya. Can somebody pin Priya?
Priya is there.
Yeah. So Priya, my question is to you. See, we medicos are never very comfortable about investing, about knowing about finances, and we never take any uninformed decision about our patients. How can we take uninformed decision about our own hard-earned money? It's time actually to know about finance, to update ourselves about finance. So Priya, my question to you is, how did you manage to learn about finance, and how did your journey into your financial journey started?
First, let me thank you, Dr. Alpine, Dr. Chetna, for bringing this important aspect of money matters in today's discussion. So I'm sure all the doctors over here will agree that money is an important part of our lives. As the famous saying goes, that money is not everything, but everything needs money. And sometimes, as Dr. Sujit said, just imagine that you don't have to work for money. I mean, you just work for passion, and all the problems in our medical field, such as unethical practice, medical jousting, everything will vanish. So once you understand the importance of financial freedom, you will start working for it. And about the time that all of us have 24 hours. I mean, so if you want something, you have to give time. I mean, we still manage so many things in our lives. If you want good health, you work for it. Similarly, if you want passive income, you have to work for it. Just set your priorities right. Beginning, it may take more time, but later on, it just takes 30 minutes per day and even less than that. You just require a good mentor who is trained enough and with whom you can learn. About sharing my experience, similar to Dr. Swapnil, it started in 2019 with WealthCon. Darshan, you can share the slides now. So myself and my husband, we attended this WealthCon conference, and this is a brainchild of Dr. Ramnath Ghute, who is also a radiologist from Bombay. And it works on similar concepts of like Umang. It is a financial educational drive, which is for doctors by doctors. Few steps which we took after entering WealthCon was that we exited our regular mutual fund and all those money back investment come insurance policies. We could start our investment directly into direct mutual fund. We opted for tax saving ELSS instead of PPF. We created HUF account. We could actually read and understand our own income tax return. And after that, we started enjoying active investment. That is the real empowerment, that where you yourself can know thyself and you can invest the way you want to invest it. Paper gold, SGB, everything. You can diversify your investments. And basically it is learning and enjoying. And
I would just say, if you can use some full forms, many of us are ignorant about SGB.
Okay. So SGB is kind of sovereign gold bond. This is one type of paper gold. And after entering WealthCon, I have not bought real gold. It is all into paper gold and SGB. Once you understand the importance of it and what value it creates, I'm sure everyone will agree. And now it is constant learning and enjoying. And finally, next, basically to reach that state of financial freedom where you don't have to work for money. You work for passion. You are free from any competition, no EMI, and that is what we are aiming at. And we are also in process of learning, but at least the beginning is made.
So Dr. Darshan can also add how he has achieved his financial freedom. I'm sure he's financially free by now. So how he has achieved this?
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks a lot for hearing me, because my wife hardly hears me. So this is a platform she has to hear me as well. No, we are not financially free as yet, but we are on the path, and we are very sure that we'll be financially free in a very short time. All thanks to WealthCon. Now we keep on saying WealthCon and Dr. Ramnath Ghute. It is not to advertise. It is out of the debt to him, because yes, one person changed our attitude towards finances in just one meeting. So I'm very sure if and when you get a chance to attend his webinar, it will be life-changing. Now, Priya has explained about financial freedom. So this is a beautiful flow chart. I hope everyone can see and hear me loud and clear.
Yes.
Yes.
So this is what a financially uneducated person does. He goes to work to earn some income. but he spends everything in his needs and wants. A financially smart person, maybe we are in this stage, all of us. Yes, we go to work, we earn some income, but we spend less, and so we save some money, and we also invest. This is where we are, most of us. But what is the difference with a financially independent person? He does not go to work, simple as that. He's enjoying his time. Why? Because his money that he has invested is going to work. See this chart. His money which he earns, that the passive income that is earning, that is also called the secondary income from his investments. It goes to work. The money is working for him. It is generating the required income to meet his demands, his expenses. In fact, money is saved, which again goes for reinvestment. So this cycle gives him financial freedom. Now let us define, this is all subjective. Let us define financial freedom. So kindly see this arrow, third line. When you have funds enough to survive for 20 years without actually going to work for any income, that is financial freedom. So we definitely, all of us got a scare last 1 year thanks to Corona. So imagine, do we have money if we would have not gone to work for 20 years? So this is the definition. Now, do we reach this in 1 day or 1 night or 1 year? No. So there are certain milestones before we can reach here. First milestone, when your annual passive income, that is income from your investments, overcomes your annual expenses, that is number one financial goal. Once you have achieved that, your next step is that your annual passive income overcomes your annual active income. And finally, over a few years, you can reach the financial freedom which you are dreaming of. Now, how do we achieve this? By smart investment. So what are the investment? These are the only 4 assets where you can invest. Debt products, which was so famous in our parents' age, gold, real estate, and equity. Between the 4, wealth creation is done in real estate and equity. Real estate, of course, is a very big ticket investment. Equity, one can start investing from a very small amount. Gold and debt products are not for wealth creation. They are to balance the portfolio. The portfolio has to be diversified because yes, both real estate and equity have their own volatility, which means there is some inbuilt risk. Now, how do we actually do this? First part is first we are going to invest money only if we have saved money. Overnight, we can't increase our active income. If we save, it is like another income as well. So focus on products of necessity. Whatever product you want to buy, think twice. Is it really necessary? Is it for necessity or it is just to show off? Is it a product of prestige? Mobile is necessary, but high-end mobile, high-end car, are they necessary? Are we going to post them on Facebook and WhatsApp? Then something is wrong. So you can save money in this very first criteria, which is focus on products of necessity. Part 2, in equity, we have mutual funds and stocks. Mutual funds, most people through agents, they invest in regular mutual funds. Regular means through an agent. Even if you go online and you book a mutual fund, if the fund it's written regular in front of it, then it's a fund wherein some commission is cut for an agent. If you want to save on that, which you should go for direct and growth mutual funds. We have some criteria at Welcon called as CARE criteria, wherein a good mutual fund can be picked up in 2 minutes. but that is beyond the discussion today. Then coming to stocks. Normally, people have heard about multi-bagger stocks. Multi-bagger stocks do not become multi-bagger in a day. We don't know when we invest in a stock whether it's going to be multi-bagger or not. It is a future thing. But if we do invest based on tips, we definitely will invest in multi-dagger stocks rather than multi-bagger stocks. They are going to kill our investment. So what we need is really good sound companies with good growth potential, good healthy companies. Again, at Welcon, we have a formula called as MPTDS. This is all the brainchild of Dr. Ramnath Gute. We call him Ram, and Ram stands for Ram and Many in the Welcon group. So this formula, again, by MPTDS, we can decide whether a given stock is good or bad within 2 minutes. Then, yes, most of us have always we have got ignorance policies. This is a terminology at Welcon. If we buy an investment come insurance policy, it is called ignorance policy. It neither serves the purpose of investment, neither of insurance. Complete insurance is only 2 things: buy term policies and buy mediclaim. Lastly is tax saving products. Yes, PPF and NPS are very good products, no question, but we have to decide for our age what we are looking at. A young person who requires an aggressive portfolio, a growth portfolio, he should invest in direct ELSS, which is a type of tax saving mutual fund. You get the benefits of ATC, but the returns are quite higher compared to a PPF. Yeah, if you are in a senior citizen age, you are looking at preserving the money, then you should definitely invest in PPF. Last part, when do we start? Well, we can always start and we can always do things only in the today, only in the present. We can't work in future, we can't work in the past. So yes, you can start today itself. If anyone has time for Facebook, WhatsApp and everything, he or she also has time for his own education. Welcon is one product. There are many others. It is up to you. We are not advertising or asking you to just join Welcon. But if you are seriously inclined into learning finances, then you have to give time and learn finance. And finance is a 7th grade subject. We have proved that at Welcon. Dr. Ram has done a study with kids from doctors only who are in 7th standard, and they are presenting PPTs on finance. Thank you very much for a patient hearing. Thank you, Priya, for hearing me out.
Thank you, Dr. Darshan.
She didn't have any choice, rather.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think bottom line is you can start investing now also. And I agree with Dr. Darshan, even Welcon has changed my life also. And I think we will require one more session for this CARE criteria and MPTDS criteria to discuss in details. So let's move on to next question. Alpa?
Dr. Darshan, can you stop sharing your screen? Yeah, okay. So my next question is to Dr. Karnad. Sir, we all know you for your academic excellence, but I didn't know that you excelled in fiscal medicine also. And you've also seen best of all the world. You worked in public sector, then in private sector, a multi-specialty hospital like Jupiter. And then you joined, then you started your private practice also, which you were doing. So you worked on all the walks of life. So I want to ask you, sir, how did you balance all the aspect of wealth creation and how did you find your financial freedom?
Yeah, so thanks, Alpa. So when I heard that I should be a panelist, my first question to Dr. Chetna was, why me? So anyway, so like you said, I worked at KM for 25 years. And right from a few years after I finished my MD, when I had a little bit of saving, there were public issues of very big and famous and well-known companies like L&T, Tata Steel, and so on. You know, these were public issues where the shares were like almost at par. And my dad said, look, this is a chance. You just fill the form and you buy these shares, you know, rather than keeping your money in anything else. So without knowing why I was doing it, I filled the form and bought. And at that time, it was easy to get allotment of shares. You know, not many people would apply for these. So I got this and kept it. And to my surprise, you know, over the next 5-6 years, they kept growing. So then that kind of made me look at this carefully again, saying that, yeah, this is something which is likely to work. So for almost like 20 years while I was at KEM, I kept buying shares in very small quantities, you know, maybe saving just 10 or 20% of my salary from KEM. And I used to stay in the quarters of KEM. So one of the immediate goals was to make enough money to buy a house for myself. So in 2007, okay, I had some money, but not enough to buy a house. And then something amazing happened. The stock market all over the world boomed. Okay, so by beginning of 2008, my money had almost become 2.5 times in 1 year. And now I had enough money to buy a house, a good sized house in South Mumbai, and also have some money left over, you know, in case needed for something else. So said, why not? So like sold all my shares and bought a house. And coincidentally, 6 months later, the stock market was half of what it was. So if I had not bought that house, I would probably still be living in the quarters at KEM, right? So that just tells you that, you know, even if you're saving small quantities of money, maybe just 5 or 10,000 rupees a month over a period of 15-20 years, it grows into a massive amount, which you will not imagine when you're actually doing it. The second thing is in 2009, I celebrated my 50th birthday. Okay, and that's when I realized that, look, I need to earn more than what I'm doing, because I have to now look at retirement, right? So maybe 10 years down the line when I retire, I should have enough money to sort of, you know, take care of my expenses for the remainder of my retired life. So interestingly, started reading, saying how much money do you need to retire and so on. And it was quite a huge amount. So the only way was to get out of KEM and join private hospital. So I first joined Seven Hills. I was there for a couple of years. Then I left that. And then it's like when you buy a share and it doesn't do what you want it to do, you have to sell it and buy another one, right? So I joined Jupiter. And I'm there since then. So the question that I mentioned was, how much money do you need to retire? Because, you know, the younger people are thinking, oh, how much money I need to buy a house, or how much money do I need for my children's education or marriage or whatever. But at my age, the question is, how much money do you need to retire? So there's an interesting formula which I came across. Okay, it says it's a rule of 25. So you calculate your annual expenditure. Okay, so let's say that your annual expenditure is 10 lakhs. Okay, so you multiply that by 25, right? So how much does that come to? 2.5 crores, right? So if you, so if you got 2.5 crores, then that should be all right for you. Okay, now how does this work? It means that every year out of this 2.5 crores, you're going to take out, or at least the next year, you're going to take out 10 lakhs. Okay, which is 4%, right? So if you have a corpus, which is 25 times what your annual requirement is, you can retire. The logic is like this, that, you know, your expenses are going to increase over the next 10, 15, 20 years of your retired life, right? It's increasing at the rate of inflation. So the average inflation is around 6-7%, right? And if you invest your corpus, it should give you 4 to 5% more than inflation. Yeah, and the balance is what you should use. So let's look at how this works. Suppose I have invested 1 crore, okay, and my expectation I want to take out from this 4 lakhs, right, which is 4% next year. So when I invest this next year, if I'm getting a return of 10%, this will become 1 crore and 10 lakhs, out of which I take out 4 lakhs, right? That leaves 1 crore and 6 lakhs as my corpus. So what I can buy today, I can buy the same thing next year because cost has gone up by 6%, but my corpus has also gone up by 6%, right? And that same calculation keeps rolling over each year. So basically that was the target that I had in mind, saying that once I reach this, then it's a good time to think of retiring.
So that was very inspiring, sir. So no matter where you're working, in what sector, at what age, it's just that you should start early and you should be smart and go on investing regularly. So that was really great, sir. And we'll be coming to you with some more questions later. Over to you, Chetna, for next question.
So my next question is to Manish. So as you know, we medicos always have a challenge to increase our income. Seeing more patients means sacrificing our time, freedom, taking the family time out and then going and seeing the patient. So what's your view on this, Manish? Increasing income without getting busier? How can one do that?
I think the easiest way out is to work in team. The moment you think that you can all work alone, it will be difficult. The moment you think you are the only person who can do it, yes, there will be certain skills that you know, and it is very, very important to have those skills because that raises your value, that raises your like valuation in the market or whatever you call it. But that certain skill is very much required. You have to sharpen that skill, that is true. But at the same time, working in a team is one of the most important things. And second is having full faith in the team. It's not that you work in a team and don't trust that person. So I would prefer if you work in a team where you don't trust your teammates, then better get out of it and look for a new team rather than working in a team and sulking. So sulking is one thing which I feel is the problem of the most of the reasons and most of the problem that we face in our life. So if you want to work, I won't say work less, because wherever we are saying, we are thinking about, is there any way we work less and earn more? No, I am not promoting that, because working less is not we are looking at. What we are looking at, we are utilizing our time judiciously and we are not wasting our time. Okay. So you can, if you have a proper team, you decide, okay, this is the work that I will do. This is the work that I will not do. Okay, because I am not good in that, or I would not like to do that work right now. Like in medical oncology, if we discuss, there are many senior people who have left, who have not treating acute leukemias, because acute leukemia requires too much of close intervention. So we can ask our younger colleague to pitch in that. So this kind of sharing environment is very, very important, that you may be good in that because of either age, experience, or whatever the reason it is. So make a good team. And with this team, trust that team and go ahead. But if you don't trust your team, I would not suggest you to stick with that same team. In that case, get out and make a different team, but make a team. Without team, if you try to work, then it is not possible to really enjoy your life.
I think very, very important point. And I think we are doing it at Jupiter. So yeah. Helping us. Yes, good. So over to Alpa.
Yes. So my next question is to Sujit. I want to ask you about how do you decide on your consultation fees? So there is always a dilemma whether we are overcharging our patients or patients would run away if you overcharge between. And the next one is that, are we underselling ourselves? And I remember still, Sujit, years back, used to always tell me, Alpa, don't undersell yourself. And I would feel that, oh, what does he know sitting in South Mumbai? The crowd that I see is much different than what you see. So how has this aspect of charging your worth evolved over a period of years of your practice? And how can you charge for your time? And one more question, many of us want to know that how to charge for a phone consult.
Okay, so there are a lot of questions there, Alpa, but I think the fundamental thing is that we need to understand that, you know, Dr. Amdekar, one of our teachers, you remember, had always mentioned that busy people always have time. And that's sort of stuck in my head for a long time, you know, so don't say you're busy, because if you're busy, that means you definitely have time to do something. And it's how you manage that time to follow up on what Manish said is what is important. It is not about how you build your practice. And as we get busier in practice, we sometimes, you know, there have been again, you learn this actually on the move when you learn it from colleagues. You feel that as you get busier, you should charge more. And Mukund Thatte, the plastic surgeon who shares the room with me at Bombay Hospital, when I decided to increase the fee some years ago, said that, Sujit, if you increase your, I said, it's getting too busy, I'm going to increase the fee. And he said that if you increase the fee, the number of patients will increase. You must understand that. So I said, why are you saying that? He said, no, that's a fundamental patient psychology that you have to understand. And it actually happens because there's often patient psychology that a doctor who charges more is better. Need not be true at all, Alpa. So I want to state that as a rider, that someone who charges more need not be a better doctor. But what it gives you, I think, is the time with your patient. And I've realized this after the COVID pandemic significantly, where there are colleagues who actually don't know what to say on a video consult or a phone consult. And they've actually asked me, what do you say for more than 5-10 minutes? So their practice has been such that they've seen about 50 to 70 patients a day, spending about 5 minutes with each patient, 5 to 7 minutes, that when it comes to a phone or video consult, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to listen to patients. They don't know how to respond to a question, and they're clueless. And intelligence is not the winner here. I mean, why I'm saying this is that just because you're an intelligent doctor or you've read your Harrison from page 1 to the end, it doesn't mean that you are a better physician or you have more time. It just means that, yes, you're an intelligent doctor. But what has more value than intelligence is flexibility in your time, which no one understands. We only understand it when we are so overburdened with work. The importance of having the freedom to do what you want after 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. Practice well, spend that time well, bill for your time, you know, and patients sometimes don't understand the value of time. They've said that when reports are seen, why should we pay money? But if reports are seen and discussed for half an hour.
Can I say something to Alpa?
Yes, Vijay.
Who's this? Who is this?
Vijay.
Yeah.
Dr. Kulkarni, yeah.
We'll talk later, or if you have anything, can you just put it on the chat box? Yeah. Yes, Sujit, go on.
Yeah. So, you know, there are some people who say they cannot charge for seeing reports, but I don't see anything wrong. If it's a 1-minute issue, maybe you don't want to charge. But if it's going to be half an hour discussing reports and a plan, I think the value of that time needs to be understood both by us as physicians and by patients. And I think COVID has brought that into a perspective in the sense that people value the time of a physician now on the phone or on a video call, which probably on a phone they never valued before as much as they do today. So time spent is money. It's very important to realize that. And I'm not saying we have to be just like lawyers, but there is a lot of compassion, communication, empathy that goes into a consult, which is not just a 1 + 1 = 2 consult, right? So it's not, here is the diagnosis of asthma, here is your steroid inhaler, go home with it. There's a lot more. There are fears, anxieties of a patient. There are questions a patient has, and there are preferences a patient has that may not be in sync with what you want for your patient. And so the decision is a shared decision. And I think it is important that we as physicians and the patient agree to a particular decision and then move forward. All this never happens in a few minutes in a consultant practice. And it doesn't even happen sometimes in a general practitioner's practice, if you ask me. So even a general practitioner's practice should be longer than a few minutes, I feel, at least lasting 10 to 15 minutes, bill a little more. That time is valued. Classical example, Alpa, is from respiratory physicians whom both of us know, who are outstanding in their field, yet patients come to me or you for a second opinion. And my first question to them is, why have you come from a person who is outstanding, a good friend? And the only answer, and most of the time, is he never has time for me. He or she never had time. So they just didn't answer my questions, and they were in a hurry. And before I could stand up, they were standing up. So the thing is that if that is that, and those things are not, they don't, there's no intelligence required for that. There's just.
So that's very important. So though the fee structure is individual because it depends on whether you started your practice early or no, which area you're practicing. So
the city, the city you're practicing in also, the cost of living in, say, Mumbai is radically different from my hometown, Kannur in Kerala. So you can't compare pricing in these two cities.
Yes, but the message is very clear to juniors also, junior doctors, that you must charge your worth and you must learn to value your own time and your own expertise. Thank you, Sujit. Thank you so much for
and I think one should also develop social skills. You should know your subject, but you should also have those social skills, how to talk to the patient, which is very important. And that is also never taught in our curriculum. So that learns only in practice.
That's what I said, Chetna. Yes. Communication, empathy, and flexibility in your time. The freedom to do what you want when you want is not based on intelligence. It's based on a mental psychology that you need to inculcate.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. So next question is for Swapnil. Swapnil, you are there, no? I can't see you.
I'm here, yeah.
Yes. So now after so much of discussion, and you heard Priya and Darshan also, can you quickly summarize what is financial planning? Like you told us that you have not given it to any planner, you do it yourself. Yeah. So how it is to be done, how early one should start. See, for example, if somebody is earning 1 lakh, so how much of that 1 lakh, for example, one should save or invest, and how much he should spend. So whatever, if he's earning 2, how much he should do that. So if you can just summarize for us, it will be very nice.
So everyone will have a different risk appetite. Okay, so what I'm going to say may not be applicable to everyone's individual situation, but this is like a framework which we can easily follow. So what I feel is, first of all our safety nets should be in place. So safety nets are all our insurances. So insurances are going to be only, the ones which are really helpful. So that includes a term insurance, a health insurance, and a indemnity insurance. So these are the only insurances we need. We don't need any other insurance. Term insurance should be a completely vanilla, without any riders, without anything, just a plain term insurance, because you want some money for your family if you're not around. Health insurance, according to me, is very important, and in Corona, so we have now realized how important that is. So my calculation for how much health insurance one should have is, you should think of what is the costliest medical procedure which a corporate hospital can offer. So what is the costliest medical procedure that a corporate hospital can offer? And I think that is a liver transplant. So your health insurance should be able to cover a liver transplant. So the aim is that you prepare for the worst outcome. Suppose you need a liver transplant, your health insurance should be able to cover that. If you prepare for that, all other diseases you can easily cover. And coming to indemnity, all of us are working in highly litigious times.
Can we mute Uma Bansal? Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So all of us are practicing in highly litigious times. So indemnity insurance, should be an adequate cover. Basically, surgeons will have a different requirement and physicians will have a different requirement. That's a whole different topic. Then we should diversify our investments. So if someone is a beginner, he should start with, like Dr. Priya and Dr. Darshan said, we should start with mutual funds which are direct. There should be no agent involved. So there are some online brokers who are discount brokers who will give you direct plans of mutual funds and growth plans. You have to also select. Not all direct and not all growth plans are good. You have to select, and there are, like, it's a big topic how to select, but it can be done. So once you start investing in mutual funds, so that is your first step. Then you slowly over a period of say 1 or 2 years, you start understanding what is the money market, and you realize, okay, so this is how the money is growing. Then you can start entering into the stock market. So stock market, we have classically been told, okay, stock market is a dangerous area, it's gambling, it's this, that. It's nothing of that sort. A stock market is gambling for people who are gamblers. For people who are doctors or who have a different attitude, it is not gambling at all. So for those people, it is a way to make wealth. So how to do stock market? You buy only large cap good companies, like Dr. Darshan said in his presentation. So large cap good companies you buy. How do you diversify? So what assets he had shown, there is gold, there is sovereign gold bonds, there is real estate. So as per as your means allow you, and as per as your risk appetite is there, you should just diversify your assets in all these 4 categories. That is mutual funds, stocks, real estate, and gold. So suppose, for example, madam has asked, someone has say 1 lakh rupees. So first you should meet all your needs, your expenses, your monthly expenses. I think it's better to calculate through annual expenses rather than monthly expenses, because month to month there will be variation. But annual expenses is a more round number. So you calculate your annual expenses, you calculate your total annual income, you subtract the value, and whatever is left behind, you also have to plan for any upcoming events or any upcoming, suppose you're planning a trip, or suppose you're planning to buy a car. So you plan accordingly. And then before you expend money on luxury, you should expend money on investment. So it should not be that you are first expending on luxury and then you are, whatever is left behind, I'm investing. That is not right. First, you should, fix an amount. This much amount from my, say, suppose of your saving, you decide, okay, 40% of my savings, I'm going to invest. So that 40% should first be invested. And then whatever is left behind, the surplus, that you can use for luxury items, or not luxury, but suppose something you want to buy a car in the future, or like sir was saying, there is a home coming up. So you have to plan. So you should calculate in say 5 years how much I am going to need, and then grow accordingly. So Bakshi ma'am, anything else? There were a lot of questions actually.
Yeah, so I think that summarizes very nicely. You have summarized, so at least little idea. Now we have a clarity how to go about it. Alpa, you want to ask something more to Swapnil?
No, that's what I mean, this is a session. Actually, it will help people to get motivated, get sensitized, and become aware about investment. And later on, if you all want, we can have a separate session, maybe 2 or 3 hour session, where we can invite people and welcome people to actually take a session for us. Okay. Shall we move?
I would just like to add to what Swapnil said, is that people should not consider what he is saying as an advice, because that is a different session altogether. Whether where to invest, what to invest, and all those things. For that, we need to learn more.
Yeah, so this is just a framework, like the skeletal framework for
just the outline, skeleton framework.
Yeah. The muscles,
and just to have a basic understanding of it.
You have to attach.
Yeah, you have to attach.
So we've had enough about how to invest and how to save, and sometimes that can really get overwhelming, especially people who are not used to investing, that can really get overwhelming. So my question to Priya is that already we are so much burdened with doing so many things, updating ourselves with the recent advances and, our practices and dealing with our patients. And one more thing, just updating ourselves about money matter. Isn't it too much? Rather, shouldn't we be giving this to a financial planner rather than taking one more extra load on our head?
So as Dr. Sujit said earlier, busy people have more time. COVID has taught many things: importance of health, family, immunity. One more important lesson learned is financial security. And it cannot be achieved overnight if you don't work for it. If you have realized importance of this financial health, I'm sure you'll start working for it. And we doctors are the most intellectual cream of our society. I mean, educated, hardworking, much better qualified than agents and PMS services. And finance is not that difficult how it is portrayed. I'm sure if I can do it, so can you. Managing finance is like a life skill. You cannot outsource it. I mean, that is what we have learned from WealthCon. And it is our duty to manage our hard-earned money, because no one will care for your money about the way you do it. Agents, PMS services will have their own gains. And in today's era of smartphone, so much of digital banking, it is possible to have everything within our reach. Having your own demat account is possible. Tracking it daily is easy. Deciding MF and stocks of your choice is possible. You just have to understand the importance and start putting some efforts. And I'm sure it can be achieved, like how we are doing it.
Yes.
And that's very well said, Priya. And I'm sure all of us are inspired with that.
Yeah, and as she rightly said, it is 7th grade subject. Initially, we may find that this is financial jargon very difficult and so many words we do not know. People ask, what is mutual fund? What is direct stock? But once you go into it, see, we are doctors and we are cream of the society. It is very easy for us to learn. It's not difficult at all. So, but we should at least put some effort. Maybe half an hour daily also should be enough for us to really understand what it is. It won't take much time.
And you learn from experienced mentors, you
Yes.
learn from seniors. That is the way you go it. Before 2 years, even I was not aware of what is SGB and what is stocks.
Right.
But now, once you start doing it and you start enjoying it, believe me.
Absolutely.
Right.
And
So yeah, I think after all this discussion, and as Alpa said, कि इतना सब brain में जमा हो जाता है, तो I have a question for Dr. Karnad sir. Like we are so much habituated to see these many number of patients. We go to work and we are working whole day, and even after coming home, it is very difficult to disconnect. And it is very difficult to disconnect and come home and do your own routine things. So you had taken a sabbatical for 1 year last year, I remember. So we want to know about how was your experience. And even taking sabbatical requires a lot of courage. It is not so easy. So how did you manage and what was your experience, sir, about it?
Yeah, so when you asked me the previous question, I told you what went through my brain when I became 50 years old.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, that was 2009. So then 2019, I became 60. So again, you have to take time to think now what. You reached another milestone. How much time is left and what all you would like to do and whether you had the time to do it. So while I was at KEM, one of the good things, apart from the academics, the wonderful case mix and colleagues that we had, was that we used to get 1 month of vacation during summer, and Dr. Avinash Suppe was here some time back. I don't know if he's still here, but Dr. Suppe and I used to spend 2-3 weeks in the Himalayas every summer trekking and completely disconnecting from the world. There was no way to even contact the family or the other way around for those 2 weeks. So after I joined Jupiter, basically it was like maximum 2 weeks of holidays. And then it's the same concept, whether the agent sells you a mutual fund or whether you buy it yourself. So when you have 2 weeks, you kind of book a tour with one of these famous tour companies. They'll take you on a 10-day tour and show you what they want to show you, right? It's not like what you wanted to see. So it's the same thing with your vacation. Do you want to do what they want you to do or you want to do what you want to do? So that takes planning. It's not like, you can do it in 2 weeks. So I thought that I should take leave, little more prolonged leave. And then I thought that, look, the best way is to take 1 year off, so that way there's no pressure. I'm sure all of you will be thinking, if I take 3 weeks off, the patients in the hospital, the inpatients, somebody else will look after. But the moment I come back, my outpatients are all going to come and the next 1 month, I'm going to work double of what I normally work. So I didn't want all that. So I thought the best way is to take a year off. And I tell you, it was so refreshing, even apart from the holidays and the travel that I did, both in India as well as abroad. Even the time I spent at home doing nothing was very relaxing. It makes you really think, that, okay, took leave for the whole of 2019. So like, when 2020 comes and I go back, what do I really want to do? Am I doing things which others want me to do, or am I doing things which I want to do, even when it comes to working? So it's very important. So, somebody asked me this, or many people asked me this question after I joined back: what made you take the sabbatical? So the example I gave them is like, it's like you're traveling in a train. Okay. And the faster the train moves, what is happening outside, which place you're passing by, is just blurred. You don't even realize what is happening. So you start focusing on what is happening inside the train. Who are the people around you, how to make the inside of the train more comfortable, how to enjoy yourself. So it's the same thing. When you're working so much, you kind of focus on your work, how to make my consulting room more comfortable, how to maybe meet friends and chat with them at work and so on. So what happens outside the train is kind of completely lost. If the train stops at a station, you start thinking, why is it stopped? It should just keep moving. So that's what happens if you take a short break. When you take a long break, like, you forget that there's a train, you just get out and start walking around and see what's happening. So that's how it was. And I suggest that everybody should do it, at some stage. The main insecurity, or you said that it was like taking a risk. So the main insecurity is what will happen when you come back. Believe me, nothing changes when you come back, right? It's not like you have to start like at the beginning of your career, So everything is going to be the same. Just take a break, enjoy yourself, do what all you couldn't do in the last 5 or 10 years, and come back and start from where you left off. You'll be much happier. You'll be doing things more selectively and enjoying yourself much more.
Sir, you were not worried about losing money because 1 year is a long time.
That's okay, means by now you must all have earned enough so that if 1 year you don't earn, it's okay. When you come back, you start earning again, right? It's not like retirement. It's just a 1 year break.
And that's the real thing, what we are talking about, financial freedom. It's not only the actual financial freedom. I'm sure all of us, or many of us, are now in this stage of life with actual money is not a problem, but it's the psychological financial freedom that's much more important. And that was very inspiring, sir.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
That train example was really good.
Absolutely.
That train example was really good. Absolutely good.
Yeah,
So
thank you. Yeah.
The next question is
Vijay Kulkarni wants to ask something.
Yeah, okay.
Vijay Kulkarni wants to ask something.
Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Kulkarni.
Yeah, can I say something?
Yes,
Not
sir.
actually asking, because I want to leave for another meeting, so I would like to have my say. When Dr. Dilip said that he is 2019-60, he and me are of the same age. Okay, so 2019-60, he is with me. So, but then he has gone through a very different life situation, and I have gone through a very different life situation. So in his life situation, we worked in the educational institute, in a public hospital. I am very sure he devoted all his time to his patients, but the answerability to the patients is something a different thing. And in private practice, we have always faced this. We have always felt that we are answerable to everybody who has been following with us. Though we keep our assistants, we send patients to other places and all that. Anyway, so his sabbatical, and if I take a sabbatical, it's going to be different. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah. Secondly, I just heard a lot of people speaking, and I think somebody talked about PPF savings and the other savings. There's only one area in PPF which is very important for us. I hope that all of you know that PPF is an unattachable account. So those people who have their own establishments and who have a possibility that there could be some litigations and the attachments may come for something you did or you did not do, should have some area which is unattachable. So if you have, say, an amount of 1 CR or something in your PPF, which is unattachable by any court. So that is the only advantage in PPF. No doubt PPF gives only around 7 or 7.5 or whatever, and it has been decreasing. Secondly, national pension scheme, it has gone through the, the Pension Regulatory Authority of India in a very, very smart way. And I think all of you should go to the site. It doesn't offer you too much of interest, but it's a mutual fund based investment. And NPS, my savings have earned me 13% interest. Okay, so NPS gives you 50,000 per year freedom from taxation and 13% interest. And secondly, what I felt is if the markets are doing well, NPS is going to do well. And the NPS age of exit has been extended to 65, and I think it's going to be 70. So all those who are earning after 60 should go on investing in NPS. And there are also, there is one annuity plans. Nobody talked about annuity plans because I think
so this is Dr. Kulkarni.
Sir, we are not discussing the plans here.
This is not about the advice. It's just about creating awareness and sensitizing people on all aspects, not only investment, but about enjoying and earning and saving, all those different things. So we'll definitely have one more session.
Yeah.
Detailed session where we would have discussion. Now we are running short of time.
And I think here what Manish said is very important, that if we have a team in private practice also, we can work in a team.
Yes, absolutely.
Go on a long leave, you can keep your team members, which really helps. So
yes.
that is possible in private practice also.
Yeah, thank you for your inputs, Dr. Kulkarni. So now I think, Chetna, we have some 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So I would like to ask to all the panelists that please share what has been your best and the worst investment decisions in life so far. And what's your message to the audience? Here we have audience right from resident doctors, PG students, and people who have started, doctors who have started their practice recently, to doctors who have been in practice for about maybe 5 to 10 years, and senior doctors, the entire spectrum. So please share your best and the worst investment decisions in life and your messages.
So we can start with
Karnad, sir.
Okay, so interesting question. So whether it's the best or the worst investment that you made depends on how you look at it. Okay, so let's say I'll give you an example. I bought shares of Reliance about 6 years back. That time the price was 800 rupees. Okay, then 2.5 years back they gave a bonus. For every one share they gave me one more. So my effective cost per share became 400. After that, just before the pandemic started, the price was something like 1400. Okay, so 400 had become 1400. And then immediately after the lockdown and everything started, the market crashed. The price came to like something like 900, and then it went up to 1100. So at 1100, I thought, look, it's gone up enough. You know, if the pandemic lasts, if it's going to remain like this, what do? I don't want to lose more. So I sold. Okay, so shares of 400, I sold at 1100. Today, the price is 2200. So if you look at it, you know, is this the best investment or the worst? It's already given me more than 2.5 times over 5 or 6 years, right? So I would think it's a good investment. Somebody else will say you're crazy. You sold it and it doubled after that in 1 year. So, you know, everything looks good in hindsight. Yeah. So what's best and what's worst is always in hindsight. For yourself, the main thing is you should not lose money. That's the only thing. So a good investment is firstly one which doesn't lose your money, and the other, it gets what you wanted. So like I said, you know, if I want to retire, I want my investment to give me something like 10-15%. If I suddenly get 20%, I should be happy. So that's what actually happened. I bought Tata Steel when the market crashed at 260 rupees. Okay, and in 2 months it became 310 rupees. So I got 20%. I sold. Today the price is I don't know how much, 1200 or something like that. It doesn't matter. I got my 20%. I'm happy, right? So,
Dr. Sujit.
So your message, sir?
I have never been financially savvy, I think, but the journey to understanding finances has definitely improved with this session. I think probably the best financial decision I must have made was buying my own house. I don't think renting makes sense, especially when you have a family. I think buying my own house was the best.
164, 163.
And I think one of the worst financial decisions was buying a second house. And I think that's something we need to learn. You shouldn't buy another house when you don't need it. I think the financial freedom that I derived out of paying off my home loan is unimaginable. You can't calculate that. My bank manager spent half an hour with me, Alpa, telling me what to do with those few crores I was paying back for the house loan. And he said, never pay back the loan. You can do this. There is a capital gains tax, this. He explained everything I could do. And then after half an hour, I told him, I said, can you tell me the price of a good night's sleep? And he just started laughing. So I said, let me clear this loan. And I think that's the best decision I've taken.
Very nice. Dr. Darshan? He's there?
Yes, I am very much here.
Yeah.
Well, with respect to finances, my worst decision was, of course, to remain illiterate for finances. Me and Priya were certified financial illiterates 2 years back. We couldn't read our own ITR. And the best decision was to educate ourselves, which was by joining WealthCount. And today, yes, we can do everything. We can understand profit and loss of a given stock, company, everything. And we are dealing in future and options, which is typically labeled as sattabaji. And believe me, it is absolutely safer than buying shares. Now, this is news to you, but if well trained, it is safer than buying shares. Thank you.
Yeah, Priya, you have some other opinion, or you and Darshan are doing it together?
No. The decisions are the same. It was always a joint decision, always. I would also say one of the mistake what we made was, buying all this money back investment cum insurance policies, and without proper knowledge. So, later on we realized that what mistake we had made. And my message would be that I'm sure if I can do it, everyone else can do it. You just have to make the beginning, and that empowerment will bring so much more happiness. And thank you. All the best.
We can see that happiness on your face. So, Manish, what is your best and worst financial?
Well, I think my worst decision, I would agree with Priya, was buying a LIC policy at the beginning of my career, paying a very heavy installment. And I think I'm saying so because I'm still alive. So if it was not alive, then it was a good investment. But since I am alive, that was a bad investment. And that, according to me, is one of the worst investment. But during the same time, I did some other investment, which is really giving me too much of a good return. And that is investing roughly around 4 or 5 years later. I bought Petronet LNG because I thought liquefied natural gas is going to be the future of cooking and other things. So I invested in Petronet LNG, and another is in cement company. There was an IPO, I invested in cement company. These two company vis-a-vis LIC investment, if I compare, there is no end to it. So investing into a good company in the future, that made more sense. And LIC investment, I would say, was one of the worst investment that I ever made.
Swapnil, what is your experience?
So the theme seems to be that LIC money back policies are your worst investments. So I also agree, like I said in my first answer, that the policies that I bought, they are like the really bad eggs. And about the best investment decision, I still don't know which is my best investment decision, because that is one another thing about investment. You have to give it a long time. The power of compounding has to be there. So you have to wait for at least 15 to 20 years for the money to actually become something which will, be a big corpus. So I have started about 4 years back. So I have like at least 11 to 17 years left before I can tell you the answer to this question. So
You're very young. Yeah.
I'll ping you then again.
Swapnil want to say कि I am very young और तुम सब लोग बूढ़े हो गए हो.
But from today's discussion, what I have understood is all we doctors, we are always trapped by agents into all these kind of LIC policies. So ideally, only term insurance should be taken and no money back policies.
And no bank products also. Nothing from the bank. Your bank manager will come and sell you a wealth builder. So wealth builder, ye naam se sab log ne, everyone should be like aware that this is not wealth builder, it is wealth destroyer.
Yes, right. And it's not difficult to invest in direct stocks. You may not trade, but you should be able to invest. You have to have some patience to earn your money. That is what I think I have learned. So maybe closing remarks can be given by Alpa.
I think also, Chetna, to be fair to Dilip on Dr. Kulkarni's comments, I think you're equally accountable in the public sector, not just in the private sector. I think that should be put on record.
Yes, no doubt about it. Yeah.
And it's just a mindset, I think. And one more thing that
so if you can tell your patients up front that I'm not going to be available for the next 1 year, you can go to so and so, you recommend somebody. All it requires is confidence in yourself that after a year when you come back, this patient is going to come back to you, and believe me, they all come back.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's basically lack of confidence in yourself.
Your skill set is very important.
Yeah, just one more comment. You were asking everyone about what was their best and worst investment. Yes, so the thing is that what your investment is worth today is not really important. It's only when you sell your investment, what it gets into your bank account, that's the real thing. Yeah, so all of you who are looking at stocks at a index of 15,700, next year if the market comes to 10,000, what was your best investment today is not necessarily going to be the best investment at that time. So don't count your chickens before they hatch.
So only booked profit is a profit. Profit
right.
In your
absolutely. Yeah.
No notional profit.
And one more aspect, I think the most important aspect, that how you are using your wealth to buy the freedom that you want. And that is what is absolutely, I think the best investment, I would say, whatever I invested in myself, in my own enjoyment, in my own growth. And that is what the freedom that the money, the wealth that you created gives you to do what you want, how you want, when you want, and as long as you want. I think that is the best thing. And one more aspect I would just like to bring about is that in our scriptures, it is always said that whatever you earn, 10% of the earnings, you have to give it for donations. And I think all of us have to consider this aspect also. And it's I think one of the ways of wealth creation, whatever you give really comes back to you.
Yes.
Whether it comes or no, there are so many people in need. So you must do that. In fact, sometimes I feel that in institute, you have to create kind of a fund where all of us who are doing well in life can create a corpus whereby we can help our needy patients in so many ways. So I think with that, we should be ending the session, Chetna.
That's a beautiful thought. Yes. And I think on that thought only we should end the session.
Absolutely. So go all out and help. So the wealth which is used for your own freedom, the wealth that is used for helping others is the real value of the wealth. I think that's very important. And thank you so much, panelists, for giving such a fantastic perspective on all aspects. It's not only about saving or investing, but how to earn smart, how to value your time, how to become smart so that you can earn equal amount of money or more and save more time for yourself. And the most important, the third aspect, which I think all of us are still poor at, and that is enjoying our time and enjoying our wealth. And I'm sure a lot of resident doctors, PG students, juniors, and have got messages that you want. And once, if you all are, very happy with this session, you can send us your feedback and you can visit us. I think, Gauri, you should share our Facebook link and our YouTube links. You can see lots of things to learn from, and we can do one session, a complete, maybe a 2 or 3 hours workshop where you learn more intricacies of how actually to do it. So thank you so much. And thank you all of you for joining in and staying in till the end. Thank you, Chetna, for being my co-moderator.
Thank you so much. Thank you all participants
Yeah.
and all panelists.
Gauri, you can share our Facebook link and in the chat box so people can later on keep in touch.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah. So thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next month. Last Saturday of every month we'll be meeting. Bye bye. Bye all of you.